Yo people, it's OXSN reporting in. Just about to go do some breath work. But today has been a rather creative day for me. I've had a lot of new ideas and a rather vast creative expansion of my vision and everything that I want to pursue and my life purpose, etc. So this is not going to be like a proper episode. I am recording this on a whim for the most part as a voice note to myself so that I can just basically note down my ideas and my contemplations as it's wise to do so, as I'm in a brainstormy mood and I've been brainstorming all day, so best jot down some of these ideas before they go into the void for eternity. So let's jump right in. Don't expect anything from me. I'm just going to spew out some random information. Long story short, I'm going to rebrand somewhat, quite a bit, make a new channel, a new name. I don't know if it's going to be my new name or if this is going to be a character or an archetype or an embodied idea, but basically, right, if you're familiar with Hamza, then this video and the idea will make a lot more sense. If you're familiar with Hamza, you're likely maybe familiar with the Jeffrey and Adonis analogy. Adonis is basically the bollocks, which is UK slang or England slang for Giga Chad, essentially, which is just like gym bro, super diet, retires his family, he's a fucking entrepreneur, he's got loads of good habits, and then contrast that with the polar opposite, which is Jeffrey. And Jeffrey watches porn, Jeffrey has a bad posture, Jeffrey doesn't have any good habits, he eats Doritos for breakfast and smokes tobacco with his bogweed. And that is basically one of the main things that this Hamza kind of come up with, and then more channels like Denmo have kind of co-opted this kind of template, but it's used as a form of communication for the most part. Instead of just like telling you how to live or just life coaching you directly one-on-one, you can kind of break it down in like a meta perspective with a story. So instead of just talking one-on-one, he's actually talking about a scenario with a hypothetical loser and a hypothetical winner. And the hypothetical winner that he uses is Adonis. And Adonis. Normally he goes like, Jeffrey wakes up and he doesn't know why he feels like shit, but Jeffrey watches porn all day and eats Doritos for breakfast. Adonis learned from his lesson from years of watching porn and Doritos, and now he's developed himself into a masculine, high-value man. Hamza, obviously, and then that's how he starts all of his videos. He's like, shows you what a degenerate would do, and then shows you what a high-value, integrated, self-actualized person would do, right? The self-actualizer is Hamza, and the loser is Jeffrey. Okay, so we got that out of the way, long story short. Hamza is a personal development YouTube channel, and so am I. However, basically, I noticed that in personal development, especially with like most of these mainstream like Western channels that everyone knows about, I'll list some here. Hamza, Captain Sinbad, Better Ideas. One second, sorry. Excuse me. Andrew and Tristan Tate, the Tate brothers, of course. Denmo, who actually took the template that I was on about with Jeffrey and Adonis. He basically has that as well, but he's just changed the characters, and he did basically like plainly just rip it off of Hamza. But somewhat, so am I. But I'm still contemplating a lot about it. So there's Denmo, but Denmo again, he talks a lot about personal development in general and stuff, and right. But there's something missing about all of these channels that I've just listed. There are more channels. Healthy Gamer, GG, that guy, I think. Likely him. For the most part, Cole Hastings as well. The vast majority of personal development channels. So we have these in one category. And then in the other category, we have somewhat actualized.org. I'd say that's not somewhat, that is like the pinnacle of in this other unnamed category. But actualized.org used to be like with the other set of names that I just listed. And then over with actualized.org in the now, in his category currently, there's also another channel I'm familiar with. I actually went on his podcast called Derek Bearsy. Now, what do Leo Gura and Derek Bearsy have in common? Is there any other channels? Aha, I've got the perfect channel in mind, who I've also been on his podcast. Or no, he's come on my podcast, sorry. And I was on his, to be honest. That is Virgo, also known as Psychedelic Actualization. So he's over in the second category with actualized.org, aka Leo Gura, and Derek Bearsy. Contrast with Hamza, Denmo, Better Ideas, Captain Sinbad, Andrew Tate, etc. Right. They're all about forms of personal development, ultimately. Except in the second category, with psychedelic actualization, they have psychedelics involved. That's the missing link. Hamza has actually slowly started to pursue psychedelics in a spiritual sense. Obviously, inherently baked into psychedelics isn't 100% spirituality. It depends, because it seems like some people are just too thick where they just can't get the downloads. So I was contemplating this a lot when I was coming up with the new name and the new brand, which will be Psychodonis. Do you understand where this is going? Because actually, in the original analogy of Adonis and Jeffrey, I should have made it clear that this kind of role model of Adonis, there's something missing deeply, which is psychedelics. And this is the core thing. It's like personal development and mysticism. We need to combine the best of both worlds. And that, my friend, will be Psychodonis. So it's just spelt psychedelic, but as soon as you get to the E, it's not psych-edelic, it's psych-adonis. Right? So obviously it's psychedelic mixed with Adonis. So I've realised in my own life that I was doing the psychedelics right. Right now, me actualize... So is Psychodonis going to be my name? Or is it going to continue to be OXSN? OXSN? Well, right now, in order to embody the name Psychodonis, I would have to be the best of both worlds embodied, which is, of course, psyche, psychedelic, and Adonis, the polar opposite of Jeffrey. Right now, I am 1,000,000% confident that I have got the psyche first segment of the name actualized in myself right now, because I've had over 130 very deep mystical psychedelic mushroom trips, for example. I got into LSD recently, obviously pure and tested, and I reached transcendent states of higher consciousness, of unity with God, etc. And don't get me wrong, a lot of these channels like Hamza and that, they are familiar with God, like they read the Quran, etc. But like, I'm not. You got to be careful. People don't like the word God. But there's like a resurgence, especially if you're familiar with the kind of personal development community, of kind of religious values returning to young men who heed the message. Reject degeneracy, embrace God was actually a title of one of Hamza's video. I see God as basically the creator of all, not as an entity, but I mean every aspect of consciousness and awareness and present moment. God is omnipotent, so there is nowhere where God is not. Every sense perception, anything, even every nothing, all of it is God. It's all life force. Life force is God. You didn't ask. Anyway. So yeah, basically, I have to now actualize into Adonis. Because I'm already actualized in the psyche, because I went so deep with psychedelics until I literally had rebirth like a million times, and I'm very deep into spirituality, and I always have had a deep spiritual intuition. So this is going to be for people. There's a rapper called Spectrum who has a lyric, which I'm going to integrate a few songs, and this isn't just going to be like my normal channel. I'm going to make like a whole show. I want to revamp the entire way everything looks, because I don't want to release any garbage basically anymore. I want a new name, a new channel, and stop like oversaturating everything. Right. So I must now engage in, quote, Operation Psychodonis Metamorphosis. Operation Psychodonis Metamorphosis. Operation Psychodonis Metamorphosis. Where I don't deserve the title Psychodonis yet, because I'm not Adonis. I'm a fucking Jeffrey. And this is what I was saying, right? So I'm actualized in the psyche. However, basically, what I'm saying is, oh wow, I need to tie my shit together, don't I? I'm fucking going off and not finishing everything. It's because I've smoked some fucking weed today, and it does that to me. And that's another aspect of this, is I want to quit smoking weed and like document it, solve my own problems basically, and then document how I done that. And that is how you monetize self-improvement, which is heaven on earth to me. So that when I said the rapper, I was saying I was going to integrate like a whole like show into this name, in this new brand, and there's going to be a few songs likely, or snippets that I'll do on the intros, etc. There's a rapper called Spectrum, I think, on a song called Ocean Floor. And by the way, Spectrum samples Alan Watts often, Terence McKenna even. A hint is that the song Crumble is going to play a big role in this Adonis announcement. I think that I'm actually going to animate potentially a cartoon, like where it actually shows the character. I think I might make Adonis a character that embodies an idea, like kind of how the original Adonis is an archetype that you look up to with Hamza's community. Psychodonis will be that, but a shamanic version. So we're going to have this kind of archetype that we're working towards, and to work towards it we need to metamorphose into Psychodonis. The way to do that is to become completely self-actualized in psychedelia, shamanism, grounded personal development, human life, and like every different channel of perception, if you're familiar with Ram Dass, but like integrate them all into like the ultimate meta map of reality, especially for young men. I've come to realize that happiness is directly tied with consistent execution of good productive habits for many of us. One of the main points to note is, if you look at actualize.org's channel on he has a video on gaslighting. He would speak about within that how Buddhism kind of gaslights you, and there's this kind of expectation of like you should just be happy and content with meditation. Like, instead of chasing desires, why don't you unwire the desire and then just, you know, be present in the moment, let go. But then Leo tunes in and says, well, what about aspirations? Like, some people are just very aspirational, and Leo, which is actualized, says how he couldn't he can't be fulfilled with meditation. He's aspirational. He doesn't want to just like shut down the mind, fucking monk mode, and just turn off the mind and just go into samadhi. Like, cause what's the fucking point? Like, it's like, yeah, you need that mysticism, that transcendence, and I do understand it. Don't get me wrong. And when you actually reach that, it's like the center of everything, and then everything else is done. But at the same time, like, I don't want to just be spiritual and just be like, wow, like, let go. Meanwhile, my posture is just like getting worse and worse because I just meditate all day and just smoke and just take psychedelics. So what I'm saying is the best of both worlds need to be combined. And for that, I have the quote that I was on about, that I've been leading up to for a minute, if I didn't speak in such a schizophrenic manner, which I'm going to have to work on before I start releasing things under the name Psychodonis. But basically, the tune is by Spectrum, the guy who I said samples Alan Watts and Alan Watts and Terence McKenna, and his song is called Ocean Floor, I believe, and the album cover is like a yin and yang, and in that he has a lyric. He's a very conscious artist. He says, stuck between nothing's real and realistic, mess around in the third dimension but still a mystic. Stuck between nothing's real and realistic, mess around in the third dimension but still a mystic. If you get it, you get it. Being stuck between nothing's real and realistic is on one hand you have Alan Watts, and on the other hand you have Hamza, and these contrast. If you're not super familiar, so like Hamza is like a very grounded, kind of, for the most part, Western personal development channel, and he's like, look mate, at the end of the day you should feel like shit if you're just eating shit all day. Like, how could you ever love yourself if you just like don't even respect yourself? You know, like, well, the world isn't easy. Stop expecting it to be easy. You need to go out there and fucking, you got, like, I saw a video talking about this guy made a video. I don't know who it was a while ago, but it was about spirituality, and he was saying, like, it was like a warning about spirituality, and he was saying, be careful, because he himself got into spirituality, and he gets into this place where he's just like, he's letting go, and he doesn't go out there and chase and get stuff, you know, let things come to me, divine timing. And that's what Alan Watts would say. But he was saying, I don't know about that. I become lazy. My girlfriend noticed I was lazy. My masculinity was dipping. My drive to go out there and be a man and conquer and, like, you know. But then, so yeah, Alan Watts just says, like, you know, if everything falls apart, it will come back together. Like, everyone walks around with tension, holding themselves together as if they let go, everything will fall apart. He basically is just saying, like, I think he has a philosophy of, like, because he drank alcohol loads, and he knew it was bad for him. He was very spiritual and very awake, there's no doubt about that. He certainly, in some aspects, like, he didn't really know about psychedelics an awful lot, which I'll make a video about in the future, likely on the Psychodonis channel. But it's like, the spiritual teacher tells you to let go. All suffering is clinging of the mind. Let go. That's what Buddhism teaches. Desire is the root of suffering. Stop desiring and then stop suffering. These are like the 4 noble truths or something of this nature. Okay, but then, like, why did I incarnate into this human vehicle which has survival built into it? And I'm like, I can't be in the world but not of the world. I am actually of the world, really. I'm kind of like deeply entangled with the sense perception. You know, like I'm as Jordan Peterson says, something along the lines of, "This is it, man. You're all in. This is gonna kill you." Which is true. But yeah, it's yeah, so how can we let go? I understand letting go to an extent, but like, and you can let go completely in like some deep mystical state, especially on psychedelics, where like you couldn't care if someone shot you. Or Leo Gura said this, I remember, he said you wouldn't care if someone shot you if you was completely awake and in God consciousness. Like, you can be so conscious you can barely eat. And I've been in states like that, like you're so conscious where like it doesn't matter if you like stabbed yourself. I've contemplated suicide a lot on psychedelics. I had a friend who was actually he was basically psychodonist. He was like, he mastered jiu-jitsu, mastered his diet, and then he got into psychedelics and spirituality. But he went off the deep end so deep into like some next level solipsism, and then he ended his life, unfortunately, while he was on a 3.5 of Liberty Cap psilocybin magic mushrooms. But I say unfortunately, obviously you expect me to say that for the most part, but we don't know what he saw, of course. I hope he got to where he wanted to go in the end. I can't judge it from the outside. I've been in states of consciousness, I would never advocate it, but states of consciousness that are so beyond the ego and so transcendent. Like, I don't know, go and check if you care, but you know, I've been trapped in suicide spiral realms. I've been in heaven on earth, in infinite love, back and forth hundreds of times. And so I was having all these awakenings, and I could let go and realise that everything's love, and that's all good. But there is still a relative plane. So what Psychodonus is going to be about is really bridging the best of both worlds, stop between nothing's real and realistic, mess around in the third dimension but still a mystic. Synergizing and combining the best of both worlds. So we can be awake and in God consciousness and have enlightenment and samadhi and be very spiritual and aware that we are God creating everything and everything is love, and we can be a shaman and be a mystic. But don't do it the Ramana Maharshi way. The Ramana Maharshi way is, he awoke basically and he just sat in a cave and he didn't exercise, and he just basically just died slowly because he was just meditating permanently, and he just dissolved the ego, and he didn't care, and he literally ended up getting eaten by like rats and shit. You have to fact check me on that, but he decayed because he didn't really look after himself, because he didn't really need to or care, because there's no need to, because there's infinite love. And that is true. However, basically, I feel like I've come to understand that there's an exquisite balance, necessary balance, at least for me at the minute, where I can awaken and let go. Take Conor Murphy, for example. He was a bodybuilder and stuff, just a normal geezer. He took ayahuasca and he went off the deep end into spirituality, like my friend who killed himself. So we went off the deep end into spirituality, Conor Murphy, and someone was talking to him, like, you know, because he's normally really good on his diet, etc., to be a bodybuilder. But once he awoke, he started to eat food that was worse for him, because there isn't really kind of free will in a sense. And when you get often when I have like an awakening that like proves that I'm God and I'm dreaming, etc., and I'm in direct consciousness with infinite love, etc., the idea when I come down from that I shouldn't engage in refined sugars or junk food or pornography, I see it and I'm like, but I'm immortal, so I can do what I want. So I'm so awake, like, I don't need personal development because I'm immortal and everything is the manifestation of the highest love. Therefore, what need is there? I might as well eat the junk food. But it's like we live on multiple planes at the same time, I swear. So we don't just live in the astral realms and in the absolute truths. But it's almost like there are multiple, literally, we live in multiple dimensions at once. There is a relative plane. And what my channel is going to be about is really about executing and taking care of the relative plane. And this is the Adonis, typical Adonis from Hamza. Building a good physique, getting a good diet, retire your family, become an entrepreneur, become physically attractive, looks maxing, be actually properly polarized in your genders, etc., if that's necessary, or, you know, have a feminine girlfriend, be a masculine, high value person, high value man. Because I turned it back on because I am like kind of like bisexual, but like I realized like it's just kind of fucking, I don't need that fucking lust in my life. Like, it's there. I do have the ability and a history of being sexually attracted to men since I was like 14 or something, and I have watched gay porn and stuff, and like there's no question about it. And I'm like, and when I hear Hamza on about being like how men should be men and women should be women in terms of the masculine and feminine energy, like men should have this masculine macho energy and feminine should have the kind of the gay fucking energy or whatever, the feminine kind of queerness or whatever the fuck. And I don't know, I made a post on my Instagram and I was just saying, long story short, like, yeah, like I might be like bisexual, like if I want, like it is there and I can be attracted and engage in that sort, but it's like, is that useful? I don't really like I don't have time for like meaningless sexual encounters in a sense. But it depends if you're stood in the, like, because yes, we do have time ultimately, and that's what I mean. And the absolute truth is that we have infinite time. But then on the relative plane, I ain't got time. It depends if you're like, you know, because on the personal development grind, it's like you're constantly executing so that your future self can be happier. But if you don't do that, and you kind of let life catch up to you, you end up behind. And then you hate your past self for not preparing. But when you reach God and enlightenment, you don't need any money or anything to do that. You just, like, it depends how you get there. But say, you can have fuck all, bruv, and you can be completely fucked off with your situation. And you just have got to take a heroic dose of psilocybin, and then maybe you'll meet God and infinity. And then you'll be, you know, psychedelics will give you your life back. And then through that, it's basically like what's known as a spiritual bypass. So basically, what we want to do is we don't want to spiritually bypass the relative plane and go, oh wow, I ate the sugar again. Oh wow, I ate the porn again. Well, let go. Stop clinging of the mind. Oh, I ate this sugar again. It makes me feel like makes my body feel fucking bad. And it ups my chances of diabetes in the future. Stop clinging of the mind, man. Stop clinging. If you know Inspector Veg, yeah, basically, I think he was kind of like, he was kind of like taking a piss, but say Mr. Nature, yeah. I've done a few podcasts with Mr. Nature, and he says that quite a lot, like, just leave the mind alone, man. Leave the mind alone, like, and I'm still not confident on what Mr. Nature's, like, entire philosophy actually is exactly, but Inspector Veg said to me on the phone something like, yeah, he's just turn off, yeah, Mr. Nature's saying turn off the mind, because if he turned on the mind, he'd feel a bit discontent at his bank account or something. I don't know if he's poor. I think he's actually got, like, he's doing well. So I'm not hating Mr. Nature, but I feel like I could have said it in a better way. But what I'm saying is, it's just that. It's like he was saying it. He wasn't actually poking fun at Mr. Nature. We was talking in a more abstract way. How like the Buddhist will just tell you to meditate and turn off the mind. And then Inspector Veg was saying, he's like, yeah, in a sense, he was joking about how that's basically spiritually bypassing that you have no money. And that's what I'm on about. So I feel like I've kind of hit the nail on the head. So Psychodonis is going to be the integration of the best of both worlds, but it's going to be much, much more than that also. This is a fresh idea that I've actually just concocted while I was at work today. Like, I was just putting stock away in my wage slave job, and I was just the name Psychodonis clicked, and from there I just had an expansive brainstorm of ideas, and I wrote some stuff down, which I'll read some stuff to you now. But yeah, it's still very demo, but yeah, I think that's where I'm headed a bit. So here's some keywords and bullet points that I'm just going to list because it's all I wrote down. So phase 1, part 1, the clear up, lost media. My name right now is OXSN, OXSN. I want to go through and like export my whole Instagram to YouTube, export my whole YouTube to Rumble, export my whole Rumble to Google Podcasts and Spotify, and finally wrap up and clear up everything I've been doing on a whim for so long. I've been busy abusing psychedelics and awakening so much, but in the background I haven't actually been focused much on grounded personal development because I've been too busy. Like, because when you realise God, there's like almost, it's hard to even motivate yourself to like do anything because you just go with the Tao Te Ching and just let go into the dead fish, go with the flow. Right. So yeah, I need more than the Tao Te Ching is basically what I'm saying, because that ain't enough to fulfill me. I got aspirations and that. But anyway, let's read this thing. Loading, featuring James Blake, is a song that is relevant to personal development. The chorus is, if you are in a high enough state of consciousness to perceive that message from yourself, but that's irrelevant. The missing link, forbidden or forgotten knowledge, and that is psychedelics. In the self-help community, everyone's forgot about psychedelic awakening, which I didn't even tell you what it was exactly yet, so go and find out what that is. Check out actualize.org, he is what I'm aiming for as well. So this is what I've already been doing somewhat, but it's going to be a rebrand, a new look, a new structure, a new name with music, but I'm actually going to bring like animation and stuff forward, I reckon, but we're going to see. I'm going to make like a whole plot to it. It's tricky business. It's all what I've always been doing, the actual goal for the most part since my awakenings began, but it's like when I come up with the name Jailbreak Reality or Jailbreak the Matrix, and then I started to post loads of definitions on the top of search engines that tell you exactly what it means to jailbreak a device or a phone or something. And it basically says to remove the restrictions that have been imposed by the administrator, or like basically you hack the phone so that you can do whatever you want. You know how like Apple phones have like strict boundaries? To jailbreak the phone is to essentially like re-fucking code the phone from the bottom up somehow. You like break the fucking BIOS. And I'm taking this analogy kind of from actualize.org, and then that gives you the ability to absolutely transform all of the limitations that were self-imposed by the creator of the phone. If you can really get into the phone, obviously someone made that phone somehow and built the limits into it, so if you can deconstruct the phone and rebuild it without the limits, that's basically jailbreaking. And jailbreaking reality is just basically doing the same thing but with your consciousness. And that is going to be very relevant to this Psychodonis. That jailbreak reality is going to be a kind of like a motto or a co-brand to this whole thing here. And this is all part of the OXSN empire, by the way. So the OXSN empire is OXSN, Scila, Truth Till I Die, Psychodonis, Jailbreak Reality, and Jailbreak the Matrix. I'm going to make like many hashtags in it because they're going to try and censor everyone. So OXSN as a whole, or the OXSN empire, is a rabbit hole for awakening and development. So OXSN empire, if anything, will be my main channel, but we'll see. I gotta go because I gotta go to work, unfortunately. I've actually do gotta go. I wanted to do some breath work on my break, but instead I just done this. But I do actually got to do some breath work, which Hamza also speaks about, and it's actually a very spiritual thing also, because you can have psychedelic experiences. You can produce, get this, Hamza speaks on breath work, right? He's also just starting to speak on psychedelics. You have a natural psychedelic within your system already called dimethyltryptamine or DMT, and you can release and produce DMT through holotropic breath work, or the Wim Hof breathing method, etc. So that's what I'm on about. It's all interconnected, and I am the center of the interconnectedness of awakening and manifesting the new earth. So yeah, I'm going to do some cartoons of when Adonis discovers psychedelics and when Jeffrey takes mushrooms. I'm going to do a podcast with Psychodonis somehow, because I'm going to create him into a separate character in a way. That's going to be like an archetype. Psychodonis, shamanic development, bridging spirituality and self-help, stuck between nothing's real and realistic, mess around in the third dimension but still the mystic. Creativity is what you seek. Creative floodgates is what happened to me, and then it expanded everything. I was struggling with everything, but all I needed was a creative insight, and now I am so intrinsically motivated. But yeah, I gotta go. I hope that made sense. This is all coming into fruition still, so I'm quite a bit away, but we'll get there. Alright, I love you. I gotta go to my wage slave job, unfortunately. And that's the thing as well, it's like, I think awakening deeply with psychedelics, etc., is actually kind of dangerous if you're trapped in a wage slave job. Like, imagine a slave going in and out of mystical experiences via psychedelics, or like an actual like bottom end slave, of like transcending and like seeing, but like then you cut, and then when you just come down from the mystical realm, not inherently that you have to, but I mean it's kind of hard to do it without psychedelics, or nearly impossible. Who's to say you shouldn't be on them all the time? Nature is symbiosis and codependence. Who's to say? From my experience, and Mr. Nature took LSD 6 months in a row and learned the most that he ever learned in his life. And magic mushrooms for me just like literally download infinite wisdom into my brain directly from source, etc. And LSD makes every day my birthday. And there's no come down, there's no negative, and it rewires your brain, and it's neuroplastic, etc. What was I fucking saying? But yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, it's all good having spiritual awakenings and stuff, but if you're still Jeffrey in the relative plane and not Adonis, then, you know, you can awaken as Jeffrey and realise that you're God, but you're still on the relative plane, you're still in wage slavery. The relative plane will evaporate eventually, and will go absolutely to the absolute. But there does seem to be a relative plane, and I think it's time we pay attention to that. And yeah, realise that spirituality and personal development are ultimately one, and that's what I'm going to bring to you. Okay, I gotta go. I'm going to try to do some really quick breath work before I have to go to my shit job. Alright, I mean, it's actually, I don't know, at least I'm getting paid, you know, but yeah, I think it's dodgy to awaken in a bad environment. You have an awakening, but you have abusive parents, and you're very young. It's like, you know, you're still, because awakening is kind of completely separate from all form, in a way. It's like absolute truths behind all sense perception. So like, basically what the universe is doing is a thing, you can incarnate into any movie you want to. You can literally, as God, you can incarnate into any character, as any role, in any plot, in any story. And this is what you're in right now. That's what your ego is. Your ego is playing a part in this cosmic film and video game that we are in it and of it kind of, for the most part. What the fuck is that? That sounds kind of mad, bro. Interesting. Some mad jet. Right. Yeah, so the universe can incarnate as any character it wants. It could be in it but not of it, in a way, or in it but of it also. Right, and then, like, you can play and get lost in the role. You could be the villain, you could be the hero, and you're just going along with it, not really questioning, this is how it's always been, whatever, everything is just, alright. But then you can, basically, awakening, you can become conscious of absolute truths that are beyond all form. So regardless of what incarnation you incarnate into, regardless of where you are, what planet, what timeline, what dimension, there's always, like, absolute truths, which is, you are the mind of God creating everything with infinite will, with infinite love. And that will never cease. So it doesn't matter where you are or how long you forgot for, you can always realize this if you go within deep enough, essentially. There's multiple facets of awakening. Right, but do you see how that's completely separate from the relative plane? In a way. It's not, also, but it's like, those truths are behind the scenes. And it's like something that you can't forget as God. God can make itself forget, because if God was all-powerful, does God have the power to deceive himself that he's not God? Yes. Because if he didn't, he wouldn't be God. I don't know. But, yeah, basically, master the relative plane, master the spiritual plane, master every aspect of life, and have a good show. That's what I want to do. I want to produce as much worth producing and help as much as I can and be of service in the most holistic, loving, fulfilling way ever. And that, my friend, is Psychodonis. So, come over to Psychodonis. My name is OXSN, OXSN, and now it's time to engage Operation Metamorphosize into Psychodonis. Operation Psychodonis Metamorphos... Operation Psychodonis... Time to engage Operation Psychodonis Metamorphosis. Time to engage Operation Psychodonis Metamorphosis. And then hopefully, basically I have to get hench now and become like a proper fucking Giga Chad. And when I've done that will basically be I'm not going to be Psychodonis until I am Adonis in some form. So but yeah, so Psychodonis might have to be a character I have to invent until I can become him. So, look forward to that. Alright, I love you.